Peace and blessings. Welcome, everybody. This is Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. I come on live every Monday night on my YouTube channel. Ajani Bakari is the YouTube channel you can find me on. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate everybody taking their time out to join me as we always tackle three topics every Monday night. Tonight's topics are going to be Ukraine refugees. So we're going to discuss the Ukrainian war and obviously the Ukrainian refugees that are going to be accepted by the United States. We're also going to discuss what are the limits comedians have when it comes to comedy and what they can say. Are there any limits to a comedian when it comes to their comedy and the words and the things that they can talk about or say on stage or in a bit? And also the last topic we're going to discuss is obviously another topic that's pertaining close to what happened this past week was when is being woke too woke. So we're going to define what being woke is, and then we're going to see, what topics and subjects that pop up in the woke community that are just a little bit too woke for me to understand or to believe in, or for just in general. So again, the three topics tonight are going to be Ukrainian refugees. What are the limits a comedian can say on stage or in a stand-up or in a comedy bit or in a joke? And also we're going to discuss when is being woke too woke. So thank you again for joining me tonight. We're going to go live on my Facebook and IG shortly. You can catch me on my IG page, which is speaking_with_Ajani_Bakari, or you can catch me on my Facebook at Ajani Bakari. But I also like you to join the platforms on YouTube, because that's where the best quality of this show will be available to you. So, we're going to get to the show shortly. We're going to join with some other people. I like to have an exclusive topic for my YouTube followers, which we'll discuss in a little bit here. We're going to discuss the accident of the 14-year-old boy that lost his life in Florida a couple of weeks ago in Orlando. Some stuff have been revealed about that incident. So we're going to talk about it. I feel like, something that we could talk about. So we'll definitely discuss that. So again, this is Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. Thank you for joining me. We'll get to the show shortly here. Hopefully everybody's having a beautiful, beautiful Monday night. As I send my blessings to y'all, thank you again for joining. I'm going to let a couple of folks know that we're making it through here. We're going to get the show started shortly here. It's been a big week, man. Oh, man, social media. We haven't had something go this viral in a long time. What happened last week? But let me go ahead and get to the topic here. I wanted to go ahead and discuss the tragedy that happened in Florida with the young man who got at an amusement park and he joined the ride and he lost his life. It's still being under investigation to what happened, but a young man got on the ride, and it was one of those rides where they lift you up, up in the sky high. You're sitting down on something, and your back is obviously against the ride, and you're facing the world, and they throw you up in the sky, very tall, very high, and he fell, several hundred feet to his death. A sad, tragic thing. Rest in peace to the young man. My condolences to his family and his parents and his loved ones. It's definitely something that no parent wants to ever have to get, that message of, something happening to their child. But the young man, was just out. He was from, I believe, Texas, if I'm correct. Don't give me, don't hold me to it. But he came to Florida for a school trip and of some sort. And, they decided to go to this amusement park. And he was a very large stature of a young man. He was, he seemed like he was very tall. He seemed like he was above 6 feet. He was a football player, so he seemed very, like I said, he was a large boy, and he lost his life. And what's the recent information that's come out about this is that they're saying that the buckle that attached him to the particular seat he was sitting in never unlocked. So they still have to investigate with how did he fall. So they're claiming that he was secure, or at least the belt stayed secure while he was on the ride. That did not fail. How he fell, or how he fell is still being investigated. There's footages and pictures of it. I didn't get the I couldn't watch it. I didn't watch it. I didn't see the viral videos that went viral a few weeks ago about it. I couldn't watch somebody dying like that. But the young man lost his life, and it goes to show you, like, you never know. You never know. When I was a young man, I used to love getting on all those type of rides. Down here in South Florida, we had Atlantis, which was a water park, and I remember going to the water park and getting on crazy rides, and even going to the Dade County Fair and Broward County Fair and getting on all types of crazy rides. And you never really think about those things happening. You never think about it. These obviously, these places that have these rides, they have liability insurances and things of that nature, but it doesn't replace losing a loved one and losing someone that you really care about, especially losing a child. So again, I really do send my condolences and deepest sympathies to that family. And it's just another sad case that that we have in our society, where you just never know. You really never know when somebody that you love will not be here. So I bring up this topic to bring up the the idea of how we have to love one another more, and especially the ones that we do love. If you love your family members, your friends, the people that are close to you, you got to stick to that love and try to love them as much as possible, because you never know. And you have to let them know you love them. We all have our bickers and beefs, and we all fight about stupid things and silly things all the time that that some might see as silly, but at the end of the day, you never know when somebody's going to go. And this young man lost his life, and in a tragic way, in a sad way. He had so much going for him. He was only 14 years old. I have a 14-year-old son, so it really touched me. It really hit me in the heart. So I think that it deserves a segment of my show. So we're gonna have a little moment of silence for the young man, and we're gonna respect the young man's family and allow them to mourn in peace. So let's do that. All right, so we're gonna join into my YouTube. We're gonna join my Facebook and IG platforms here shortly. So again, I appreciate you taking your time out for coming to me and enjoying your Monday. Like, subscribe, follow, hit the like button, comment, share it, let everybody know about the page. It's Ajani Bakari on YouTube. I appreciate you guys taking your time again to come out here and listen to me. I come on every Monday night, and we're going to be definitely doing this as much as possible. Today's the 20th episode of Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm growing with this. I'm evolving. So I want to thank you. And again, I appreciate you guys. So, much love and respect to everybody for supporting. All right, starting out there. All right. Okay, let's get it started. I'd like to go ahead and welcome my Facebook and IG followers. Thank you again for joining Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. We go live every Monday night and discuss 3 good topics. Tonight's topics is going to be Ukrainian refugees and the acceptance of Ukrainian refugees by the U.S. government. We're also going to discuss what limits do comedians have when it comes to stand-up comedy and jokes and talking about things and people. And then the last topic is when is being woke too woke. So again, the 3 topics is Ukrainian refugees, what are the limits a comedian has when it comes to his comedy or her comedy, and then also we're going to talk about when is being woke too woke. Okay, so we're going to talk about how, what is the definition of being woke, and then what's also too woke. And we're going to talk about certain subjects, and we're going to have a little fun with that. So thanks again for joining me. We're going to have some IG and Facebook folks trickle in. I see a couple of folks already here on my IG. Peace, Jasmine. Thank you for joining. We'll get started on the show very shortly here. If you got a chance to go on my YouTube, I got a chance to discuss the young man who lost his life and the ongoing investigation about that. So you can definitely check out my YouTube channel. For all my Facebook and IG followers, that's Ajani Bakari at YouTube. Okay, you can like, subscribe, comment, share, let everybody know. You can go ahead and join. Like I said, on my IG account is speaking_with_Ajani_Bakari. And then I'm also on Facebook as Ajani Bakari. So these are the platforms you can catch the show on Monday nights. I go live. But I'm also going to go ahead and upload the live show onto my YouTube channel so you're able to watch that whenever you get a chance during the week, whenever you can. So give a brother some views and show some love. And I appreciate the love and respect, definitely. Peace and love. Yes, peace and love. Thank you for joining me. Get my Facebook folks in. I know it's Monday night. Everybody should be good. Hey. Yo, what's good, Mari? What's good? I heard you was out there shooting 3-pointers the other day. Beep, Kobe. Yes, indeed. Thank you for joining me, my Facebook and IG folks. We're going to get the show started shortly. Again, tonight's 3 topics is going to be Ukrainian refugees. We're going to talk about what are the limits a comedian has when it comes to joking around or stand-up or on their comedy bits. We also going to discuss when is being woke too woke. We're going to talk about that. So these are great topics. Obviously, it's been a crazy week on social media, a crazy week in the entertainment world. A lot of people's had a lot to say about a lot of things. A lot of people revealed a lot about themselves this week. And so, I feel like we can go on into some new topics, but it's definitely going to be pertaining to that because we're talking about comedy and comedians and jokes and making fun of people. And we also going to be talking about, all the crazy conspiracies that we hear all the time when stuff like this happens. And when we get into a big amount of something that, like everybody gets caught up into, like something as viral as this. Obviously, my Facebook is tripping. Excuse me, Facebook folks, as it's bad. Like I said, you guys, if you really want to get the best quality show, go to my YouTube channel. It's Ajani Bakari on YouTube. That's AJANIBAKARI at YouTube. You catch me on there. The show's the best quality. That's the best place to go. But you can also join me on my YouTube. On my Facebook and IG, and we can comment and we can talk and have fun. What's good, Jay? It's good to see you. Are you ready? Everybody woke today? Is everybody woke? Yes, indeed. So, again, tonight's topics is Ukrainian refugees. What are the limits comedians have when it comes to their comedy and their jokes? And then we're going to talk about when is being woke too woke. So let's jump right into the first topic. Okay, we're going to discuss this here tonight. We're going to discuss about the Ukrainian refugees because, like I said, I like to bring up topics that are political sometimes, and this is definitely a political topic. So what we're going to discuss here, it's real simple here. Let me get out my timer here. So, all right. So the United States has decided to accept Ukrainian refugees. We know that Sometime last month, Russia bombed and attacked Ukraine, and Ukraine has been going through some shit since because Russia's not playing. Russia's bombarding them with bombs. They're encroaching into their territories. They're trying to, stake their claim. And a lot of, Ukrainian civilians are obviously fleeing the country and obviously have to leave the country because there's nothing that they can, have for themselves there. So about 4 million Ukrainians are in refugee status right now. They say about another 6 million will become refugees as the war continues in Ukraine. So the United States decided they want to help. We know they signed a $13 billion bill, or a bill that has $13 billion allocated to Ukraine to help them out, and all kind of other things too, because they're not just giving them money, they're giving them, ammunition, arms, tanks, planes. They're giving them all kinds of stuff, humanitarian aid. There's all kinds of things the United States government is allocating over to Ukraine to help out Ukraine. We know it's a big thing. We got people putting Ukraine flags on their Facebook pages, IG pages. Some are in support of it. Mass media. It's definitely a topic that's took over, our world. But the United States is going to accept 100,000 Ukraine refugees into the United States. And that's caused a lot of controversy, and a lot of people are really upset about this because the United States is known for their immigration policy, right? That was a lot of the elections are run on immigration policy, on who's allowed to be in the country, strengthening our borders, not strengthening our borders, having immigration laws, strengthening immigration laws. The United States is a country that is really, really about immigrants, and that's what's always been the controversy when it talks about refugees or allowing people into the country. But not only are they going to allow 100,000 Ukrainians in the country, they're going to send $1 billion to European nations who are actually taking in Ukrainian refugees as well, such as Poland and Germany and other Euro countries are going to get some money from us. Our tax dollars are going to go out there to pay that. So, that's the controversy. People are very upset about it. I don't see why people are upset about it, because when you understand politics, this is how politics works. This is a perfect example of the politics and what I talk to people about when I tell them about capitalism and how the world works. These people have world investments in countries and nations, okay? The people who own, the shipping and all of the stuff that we get, anything that a nation has that's full of resources, whether it's the actual people itself that are the resource or the actual minerals or natural resource of the country, all of this is calculated by big business and big elite and big corporations and CEOs sit around thinking about how they can generate more money. So every country obviously has its own form of resources and its own form of income and finance that it can build and riches. And there's people who need to invest in that. You have to invest in countries for them to be able to do things. And that's what people don't understand about politics. The investment is very, very important. When people have their money behind this, they're going to have their back. So the United States has their money into Ukraine. So they're going to have Ukraine's back. Obviously, that's how it works. And this is why, everybody's going crazy when they say, well, you're not letting Mexicans in the country or you're not letting Haitians in the country. Well, that's not America's investment into Haiti, or that's not America's investment into Mexico. Beyond the fact that Ukraine's a white country or a European nation, and that's obviously one of the main sources or resources is in European countries is the actual people for their own social order and social power. Okay, that goes into being with white supremacy, but that's basically how they function. It depends on your country and depends on your nation and what your nation can actually provide to big business. And America is like the mafia. They're the ones who allow big business to do whatever they want to do. So in the mob and in the mafia, they basically protect and allow criminals to do what criminals do, and they get a chunk of the money. Well, the United States works the same way. They're like the mafia. They allow big businesses to do whatever they want to do, and America gets a chunk of the money, and we all get to eat and be happy, and that's supposed to be the system. This is how it works. The United States is no different. If you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm lying, there's a documentary you can watch for those that like documentaries, and for those that actually like to read, there's a documentary and a book called Confessions of a Hitman. The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Okay, and this is a book written by an ex-CIA agent, and he basically talked about how the United States government and the CIA go into countries and basically plot out their economic their economic policies and break down things and tell them what their country GDP is and what their country can generate and all this other stuff. And they basically go to every country with every election, with every new leader, and try to coerce them to allow big business. And that's the most important part. Can you allow big business? How much money can we generate in your country? And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So Ukraine is a part of that. So Ukraine is a part of the idea that we need to keep Ukraine stabilized. So they're going to help out and bring 100,000, Ukrainian refugees over here. Now, majority of the refugees that are coming here are people who have family members already from the United States that are here. So it's not like they're just taking any random people. These are going to be people that are going to be obviously situated with family members or people close to that kind of title. But again, the criticism or the opposite side of that is that people are saying, hey, you supposedly try to bring in 75,000 Afghanistan. You couldn't do that correctly. It's still a hell and trouble to do that. These people are brought in by what they call humanitarian parole status. So they get to come into this country, live here for a while, establish themselves, and eventually they're supposed to go back. But the United States is backed up with all of this, man. They're backed up with with everything because of the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. There's a backlog in the United States in every category we could talk about. So immigration is no different. So there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people who are in contention of this. They're saying that this is not right. But I say this is business. This is what America does. This has always been about America's business. And that's why, Mexicans do what they do to get into this country. Us Haitians, we do what we got to do to get into this country. People do what they got to do to survive and eat, man. And the United States is no different. They're just able to do it in a bigger sense, in a global sense. So that is the true factor of the matter. The idea is to depopulate nations when they take control of your nation, because at the end of the day, the less people that are there are there's less, revolts. There's less people that are going to be in contention with the government, and then you can assimilate people into society by bringing them to the United States, having them see what America's all about, then send them back to their country and try to, influence people to understand, well, we should do it the way the Americans do it. So all of this comes into, the play of the world politics. It's how it's been for at least the last 300-400 years, when Europeans learned how to sail and finally navigate the globe and see that there's actually other people in other nations doing other things. They don't play, man. They come to your country, they want what they want, and they're going to make money out of it. And that's the most important part. So right now, there's big business in Ukraine. We all know Biden's son was a part of the energy company in Ukraine as the CEO several years ago. There's always a story behind it, right? We were talking about being woke or too woke. But at the end of the day, that's what America does. They do what they have to do, and Ukraine is no different. And the policies with Ukraine is, hey, we're going to help their people because we can. Now, don't get it wrong. In 94, I think it was, the United States took in a lot of Nigerian refugees because there was a civil war in Nigeria. But that wasn't a big news. A lot of people didn't talk about it then. I mean, I was young then, so I don't know if it was big news. But I know some Nigerians that I met are from that group of individuals that were able to come to the United States and make something of themselves. So it's nothing new. It's not like it's a surprise. Does it has a racial undertone? Of course it does. Everything in America is racially undertoned. I'm not going to argue against that. But the United States is the United States, and they're going to spend our money how they see fit, and we can't do shit about it. So that's it, man. If y'all know anything else about that, y'all tell me, because, again, the United States is going to bring in whoever they want to do. They're going to do what they got to do, and they're going to take care of their people. White people are going to look out for white people. Y'all get that in y'all minds for sure. What's good, everybody? I see all my YouTube folks and my Facebook folks here. IG, I appreciate y'all joining me. What's good? Yes, indeed. Brother Khalid, respect, brother. Shake, what's good? Alpine in the house. Oh, my homegirl, Cindy, what's happening? You see your light-skinned boy doing his thing, right? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now we're going to go ahead and lighten up the show, man. Let's lighten up the show because I want to talk about this thing about comedians allowed to say whatever they want to say. It seems to be a common notion that comedians are allowed to say whatever the fuck they want to say. And I'm kind of understanding where it's coming from, but I don't understand it in this sense because there's a history to comedy that I guess people don't really know. stand-up comedy started back, in the late 1800s, early 1900s with Jewish comedians. Yeah, I know. Y'all go look it up. Stand-up comedy started with Jewish comedian. It was a Jewish American thing. We all know Jewish Americans are very intrinsic into the entertainment world in general. So they had comedy, they had movies, they had music, they have all of this stuff. So they were the ones who started it, and stand-up comedy was like a slapstick comedy type thing, like like Rodney Dangerfield type comedy, Mickey Rooney. Those little one-line punchers. They used to hit the drums. That was what you had when you talked about stand-up comedy. But when you talk about stand-up comedy, when it comes to Black culture, how it is for Black folks, it's a little bit different because for one, in African culture in general, it's always been a thing of competition where we kind of go at one another with words. Everything about African history is oral, right? A lot of things that Africans did relied on their word. Your word was very important in Africa. So, we used our words in very creative ways, innovative ways. And there was always ways of comparing ourselves and talking about ourselves in a grandeur way by using words. So when we went to, into slavery, it didn't change in slavery. And what happened was it kind of flipped. What we get is what we call ranking on people or picking on people, or what is known as the dozens or the dirty dozens. It comes from slavery. It comes from the fact that they used to sell slaves that had disabilities or that had deformities by the dozen. Okay, and these slaves used to, obviously because they were just like we do now. I mean, anybody from Alpine knows this. I've seen it, and it's just a part of Black culture. We rank on each other, we pick on each other. You got to be witty, you got to be funny, and that's where the Black comedy part of stand-up is a part of it, because the original idea of stand-up comedy was, like I said, slapstick comedy, little one-line punch jokers, nothing really too serious, nothing too nothing pertaining towards life and politics. It was just simple comedy. It was really little jokes. The original comedy stuff like Chaplin and all that didn't even have words. As far as hearing that. So that's that's the original of comedy and stand-up. So when people say you can say whatever you want, where did they get that idea from, right? Where comedians can say whatever they want. Well, it really started with comedians like Richard Pryor and George Carlin. These were the type of comedians that talked about things that people did not necessarily want to talk about, or that was not acceptable to talk about at the dinner table or at the sports bar or in certain places. You just didn't talk about these things, but these guys made light of these subjects and they made it funny. And that was the key thing. You had to be funny. You can't just talk about whatever you want and think because you're a comedian or you're making a joke that you can say whatever you want. But the idea of allowing the comedian to express themselves or to talk about these things was through comedians like Richard Pryor and George Carlin, because these guys used to talk about things that people really were like, oh my God, Richard Pryor used to talk about sex and fucking. Like, he used to say the word fucking and sucking dick and eating pussy, and it, like, people were not, you couldn't say this type of shit in especially in the Black community. Like, this was stuff that was said, like in private, around, around your boys and stuff like that. You didn't talk like that around women. You didn't talk around, like, like around other people, the elders. You didn't talk like that. So that's where you get the original idea of comedy. What's good? What you say, Ashley? Jamie says here, he says George was a legend that folks don't bring up. Yeah, George was a legend, but he talked about things that a lot of people used to be upset about. Because he was funny and witty with it, he was allowed to do that. Was he disrespecting, like when he would talk about the church? Would he go to the church? Would he go to a Catholic church and sit there and give his thing in front of a Catholic church and expect nobody to be upset at him? No, of course not. But that's what I'm trying to say, where, as a comedian, you do have limits. You can't say whatever you want, whenever you want. But they have that freedom to express things because they're witty and they're funny. So you have to kind of be funny, but there are limits to what you can say. Because as an example, through this idea of Black culture and Black comedy and making fun of things and making fun of yourself, like Richard Pryor used to make fun of himself. Richard Pryor talked about how his mother was a prostitute, his dad was was her pimp, and you know what I'm saying. He talked about things that most people wouldn't really open up. He made fun of himself a lot. He made fun of a lot of his insecurities and things of that nature. But then you had other comedians like Cosby, right? Because there was a that, like I said, there was an idea with comedy where you had to be clean. Richard Pryor tried to be clean, and he went on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he tried to do a Bill Cosby type routine. It just didn't work, right? Because it wasn't funny. He wasn't funny that way. But Bill Cosby, as clean as he is, he was hilarious with his comedy. And there's other comedians that do the same thing, that can stand up on stage. They don't have to curse. Sinbad is another one. Sinbad would get on stage and would not say one cuss word for a whole hour and a half, and you will be busting, dying, laughing. And he'll talk about a bunch of things. You know what I'm saying? But you have to be funny, but you also have to be respectful to a certain degree, But a lot of this, again, started with the idea of Richard Pryor and George Carlin being able to express themselves, and people wanting to hear that. But then, you get into to the more recent time, and you get like the Def Comedy Jam. Now, Def Comedy Jam was black comedy. These were comedians that were in the black comedian circuit that never got any mainstream, any mainstream spotlight. So here it is, Russell Simmons starts up Def Comedy Jam. He gets a contract with HBO and comes on every Friday night at midnight, I believe. I remember being a kid. I shouldn't have been watching it, but we were watching it. And we all remember Martin Lawrence going in on people. If you was in that front row and you didn't look right, he would go in on you. It didn't matter who you were. He would go in on the celebrities. But he was still tasteful and respectful in a lot of the senses. But also he was hilarious. He was actually funny. And it was in that settings. Also, it also depends on your settings, right? It depends on where you're at, where you're doing this. If you're in a stand-up show, people expect you to be funny. People expect you to talk about a lot of different things. So, again, there are limits to what a comedian can say, because you can't just say anything. And the reason I say that is because, we can talk about people like Paul Mooney and Michael Richardson, which is Kramer from Seinfeld. Kramer went on stage and berated somebody with the N-word, and some people were laughing. They thought it was funny. They thought it was hilarious. But was it really a joke? Was he really allowed to say that? Did he really offend someone? If that dude came down and punched him in his shit, would he be wrong? You see what I'm trying to say? And of course, if Kramer fights back, Kramer's not wrong. You got to fight back if somebody is attacking you. But are you allowed to just, are we allowed to just say, well, he's a comedian. He was allowed to make that joke. He thought it was funny. He talked about putting him on a pitchfork. And if it was 50 years ago, he would be lynched outside for being here. And the guy was supposed to be heckling him. Because I've heard y'all say, hey, if you're a heckler, you deserve to get talked to but like whatever. So again, all of this idea about comedy and how you can say whatever you want, it has its limits. You have to have your limits. Even when you look at the greatest comedy special ever, which I believe is Kings of Comedy, when you look at that, those guys talked about stuff. Steve Harvey talked about rap music and rappers and how he can't stand rappers, but it was funny. It was hilarious. It was more in a light-hearted way. But would he do that if he was at a hip hop convention and particularly point out rappers and talk about them that way? You never know what might happen in that, right? You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful, because not everybody takes everything in the same sense. There's a famous comedian, God rest his soul, by the name of Patrice O'Neal, and he always said this, which I believe is true. Your jokes in comedy should make 50% of the audience laugh and 50% of the audience upset. I agree with him to that degree. But should you be offensive to the point to where somebody could be, angry enough to come, to come at you? You have to think about that. I got to tell people, you can't just say whatever you want. So Patrice O'Neal was very, very always on the edge with his comedy, but he never talked about people in particular. And I'm still waiting for y'all to show me the comedian that disrespected somebody's lady or disrespected somebody to the point to where it was really like disrespectful. Again, comedians are great at what they do. I don't hold it. And comedy's not dead. If you think comedy is dead, today's comedians are great. You have IG, who has a great lineup of comedians that you can find on IG alone. Country Wayne is another guy that I can use as an example of somebody who doesn't cuss, who doesn't really make fun of people. Real comedians know how to actually make fun of situations, not people. And that's another thing about comedy that people have to understand. You have guys like Tony Baker, Kev on Stage, Mr. Commodore, Des 1498, Des Banks. There's a lot of comedians. You have Ryan Davis. You have there's a whole slew of comedians that you can go to that are successful and they're doing their job because they're witty, they're smart, and they know how to actually tell a joke. Last week's joke was horrible. It was poor. And there's been a lot of times that particular comedian has bombed a lot. Okay, he's a great successful comedian, but as far as being a great comedian, he really hasn't been that great. He's been accepted through mainstream comedy, but he was never considered one of the greatest comedians within the black circuit. And he's bombed plenty of times. He actually hosted Def Comedy Jam for a while, and if you go back and look at it, he bombed a lot in Comedy Jam, because the way black folks, do their comedy and how we laugh is different than white folks. We all know it. It's like going to church. It's two separate things. So again, I say comedians can't say whatever. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. But you as a comedian, you have to be funny and you have to be witty and you have to know what to say. You have to know how to say it. And you definitely have to watch your boundaries, because you could get your ass whooped. You really can. Nobody's above an ass whooping, and that's the words of Chris Rock himself. All right, so all right, let's see what's going on here. Andrew Schultz. Who is Andrew Schultz? Never heard of him. Got to be a white comedian with a name like Andrew Schultz. Black comedy is different. And let me tell you why. Before we move on to the next topic, I'm going to give you an example of how going to a black comedic show and a white comedic show is different. Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, started doing stand-up very late in his life, and he decided to do stand-up because people thought he was funny, and he is a funny guy. And he used to do a lot of shows, but he used to do a lot of shows in the white circuit, the white comedic circuit with white crowds. And he used to kill it. He said he used to kill it all the time. The first time he did a stand-up bit for a black audience, he bombed. He bombed so bad that he called his brother Eddie Murphy up late night and it was like, spilling his guts, telling his brother, like, man, I can't believe I bombed. Like, what did I do wrong? What's happening? And his brother's response was funny. Eddie was like, yo, who are you? He was like, it's Charlie. He was like, Richard is bombed. He was like, Red Fox is bombed. Martin Lawrence is bombed. Chris Tucker is bombed. Eddie Murphy has bombed. Who are you again? And he had to remind Charlie Murphy that you're really nobody. Like, this happens. And I believe Charlie Murphy said Martin Lawrence actually helped him when it came to, doing black, stand-up shows, because Martin gave him an advice. Martin told him to interact with the crowd first, that you can't just go straight into your comedy session or you're straight into your jokes, because you actually got to, you got to read the room. That's what Paul Mooney used to say. You got to read the room. So you got to interact with black folks. You got to look at the crowd, talk to them, let them know you're there with them, and then from there, once they open up, you can start your jokes. So it's definitely different, atmosphere. So last week's joke probably would have worked in a Def Comedy Jam setting, but it didn't work where it worked at. It was the wrong place for him to do that, and that's why he got slapped. All right, yo. So we're gonna move on to the next topic because we're gonna talk about being woke. All right, what's good, Tito? Amanda Peace was good. Davey in the house. 954 Broward County, repping all the time. All right, y'all. We're gonna talk about when is being woke too woke. Okay, so he's a comedian. Andrew Schultz, a comedian. I'm gonna go look him up. But let's get to this next topic here. When is being woke too woke? Now, first off, we have to break down what being woke is, right? I know y'all heard this before. Anybody heard, that dude is woke, was good, was woke, that was woke, stay woke. And obviously with what happened last week, you always, every time something goes viral, we always get all the conspiracy theories. Everybody has their own take on things. And, the idea of being woke now, obviously, what people don't even know is that the idea of, the term woke is a black term. It comes from Black Americans. It's, again, black folks have changed America in so many different ways. But, and if you go look up woke on Wikipedia, I try to go look it up in Urban Dictionary, but Urban Dictionary is always wild, and some people be drinking too much on that. But the term woke is an English adjective meaning alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. It originated in the African American vernacular English. So the idea of being woke is being, cognizant and conscious of racism in America and the injustice that we face as black people. So the term woke was something that started in the early 1900s with black people. And it's a phrase just the idea of being woke, it's used inappropriately in general. You're not speaking correct grammar when you're using it the way we're using it. So you can tell it's from black culture. But there's a list of things that fall into that being woke category, right? For me, being woke is the idea of understanding your reality, okay? Because if you're asleep, you're in a dream, right? And in your dream, there's a lot of things you can do. It's not real. There's a lot of things going on in your dream that's not actually reality. It's not what's going on. So being woke means to be alert, to be aware, to understand your surroundings, your environment, and where and everything that's going on around you. So when you talk about being woke, there's a lot of things that really becomes as far as self-taught and self-learning. It's really not something based in going to school and being educated as far as getting a degree or a college degree of some sort. Somebody who has a PhD in neurology is not considered woke in neurology. You know what I mean? They're just a neurologist, right? They got a PhD. That's what they do. And that's their field. But the idea of being woke obviously is a cultural thing. It focuses on a social, political type of sense. So being woke has so many different meanings for so many different people because it pertains to what you consider being woke. But we're going to talk about what is woke, right? Because it's a lot of different things that people bring up that says you're not woke, right? When you don't know about it, that means you ain't woke. Stay woke, man. You need to go redo your research, bro. Go on YouTube, man. I got this YouTube video for you. So one of the different things that we hear all the time that that we can we say is just being woke or being too woke. So if we're being woke is going to be we're going to do this here. So woke right here. All right. So we're going to be woke. All right. For those who are on IG, you probably see it wrong, but okay, this is being woke. All right. Being woke is obviously just being cognizant of what's going on. You're using your intelligence. You're being smart. Being too woke is taking it too far now and using a coloring pencil and coloring in and filling in your own little things. All right. So what is being woke and what is being too woke? All right. So we're gonna have some fun with this because I've had some topics here that go crazy on the internet. We talk about. So let's talk about the first. Let's talk about the first topic here, which is distraction, elite distraction. All right, like everybody says, this Will Smith slap of Chris Rock and the Grammys is just a distraction. It keeps us distracted from whatever's going on, whatever reality stuff that's going on that the people in power don't want us to know about. Every time something goes viral, anything that captures the mass public's eye and attention, all of a sudden is considered a conspiracy of some elite group that's distracting us and trying to keep our minds focused on things and stop focusing on what's important. For me, I'm gonna have to say that's too woke. Okay, that's too woke. All right, that's too woke. There's certain levels to them distracting us, but it ain't that serious. I don't think that that something like this is planned out by some clandestine individuals. I mean, to think about it, somebody sat around at a table and said, "We're gonna make Will Smith slap Chris Rock because we need people to be, we need people to be distracted." I mean, first of all, you have to be smart enough to think that many people give a fuck, right? Which is something that is surprising because there's a lot of people who give a fuck, right? But then you have to think like, are they really gonna take their time to do that shit? Nah, man, that's too woke. You're being too woke. Elite distraction is not something serious. You're not woke because you make up some colorful idea of why they're distracting us. Half of the times, y'all can't even tell us what the fuck they're distracting us from. All right. And most of the time, the shit that they're distracting us from, you motherfuckers don't even give a fuck about in the first place. All right. So don't come to us about being distracted again. Please stay off my fucking IG pages with the bullshit and my Facebook page with the bullshit. It's for fun. People like to have fun and enjoy themselves. And Will Smith and Jada Pinkett is fun. Leave us alone. All right. So that's one of the topics. Another thing that people like to talk about, like they control sports, right? They rig sports. The elites rig up all types of stuff, right? Let's go with, before we go to sports, let's go to celebrity sacrifice and rituals. Everybody says this is all a ritual, Masonic rituals, and this is just the elite using celebrities to send to do rituals and to get people involved so they can do their clandestine plan. Wow, where do I go with that one? How about too woke, too woke, too woke, too woke? I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, come on. Now, granted, I do believe there are a group of people who control, entertainment, and they use entertainment for, for certain purposes, but it's not that deep, man. I mean, the Masonics or people who live in secret societies don't need the Grammys or a rapper's video or something like that. And then the idea that people are sacrificing families and people around them so that they can be a part of these groups is, it's a little bit too far-fetched. It's way too far. I say that's being too woke. So, that's just too woke for me. Okay. What about controlling sports, right? These same people, there's people that control sports. They rig games. They rig the NBA. Everything is all fake. Sports is big games. That's why we all get enamored in it. It's, sports is like Roman, they got the Roman Coliseum, all of this other crazy stuff. Let me see. I'm going to have to go with woke. Okay. Yeah, I think sports is controlled. Is it controlled to the sense where they control everything? No. But sports is used by people in power to galvanize folks, to give folks something to galvanize themselves around. If we're busy arguing about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, we may not be arguing about other things and not be discussing other things that are important. Sports give you something to be proud about, man. People are very serious about their sports teams. Outside of America, okay, soccer teams are serious. People are whoop your ass over a soccer match, man. Soccer matches are serious. So, I do believe that people in power understand this and they do use it to help. As far as rigging games, we already know they do that. They rigged the World Series, the turn of the century. They rigged basketball games in the 70s. The Mafia has always been known for rigging games. The basketball referee came out 20 years ago, told everybody we were rigging games then. So that's not too far. That's being woke. That's living in reality. If you love your sports that much to where you don't understand that they rig up some shit for us, then that's just you falling asleep. Be woke, stay woke. Okay, they do rig games. All right. How about Illuminati in the NWO? What'd you say there, Jay? Bread and circus. Too woke. Too woke. Well, what about, okay, so let's talk about like Illuminati, right? The NWO, we were talking about secret societies, right? These are all the people in the secret societies. They're the ones who's doing this. They got power. They're doing all this crazy stuff. There's Illuminatis. They control everything. NWO, which means New World Order. That's actually one of the most prevalent things on the internet from the inception of the internet, besides porn, is conspiracy theories about the New World Order and the Illuminati and the Bilderberg groups and all this stuff. As a young man, I started researching a lot of that stuff, and I would kind of like to say that that's woke. All right, that's woke. The Illuminati, the NWO. I do believe there are a group of individuals who have enough power to control a lot of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Whether you want to call them, Illuminati, I don't know if that's what they call themselves. I don't know how serious that is. Now, the Illuminati, we can have a show about that later. But I do believe there is a group of individuals who run shit, control shit. They have enough money, enough power and influence to dictate a lot. They can start wars. They can end wars. That alone tells you how much power they have. So that's being woke. I say that's woke. And I don't know what y'all believe in that or not, but that's being woke. You got to keep an eye out for these people. They do have a plan for us. And that's not too woke for me. So I'm with that there. And then what about people who think that they're reptilians, right? These people are actually reptilians. They're aliens from another being, or they run the earth and they control the earth as a special species of some sort that can transform from a reptilian state to a human state. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think I think about that? Too woke. Too woke. Yeah, it's too woke. That's too much. Now you're coloring in, you're filling it in. You got more than colored pencils here, man. You got rainbow pencils with this one. Yeah, there's no such thing as reptilian. Stop that shit. I don't believe in that shit. We are human beings. That's it. Human beings are capable of being godlike, and we're capable of being evil-like. And I guess that's where the idea of the reptilian comes from, because the idea of reptiles and the snake was always seen as evil. That's why you have it in the Bible. We can have a show about that later on too, but reptilians ain't real. That's too woke for me. Again, reptilians too woke. But what about, all right, so we talk about these people controlling stuff. What do they control? How about people who say with music, right? Music, and they influence us with music. There's always been the idea that rock and roll is devil's music. Rap music makes people sell drugs and bitches shake their asses. What does the influence music have on people? Does music, is there a mass media influence in general? Are we influenced by mass media, right? Are we controlled by what we see on an everyday basis, what we hear on an everyday basis? Does that actually affect people? Does it influence our thoughts, our ideas, our concepts? And, a lot of people bring up stuff about that. And, for me, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to say it's being woke. Music, mass media influence is real. Celebrity worship is real. It's not fake. Is it curable? Is it something that we need to fix? Yeah, of course. We need to get our minds out the gutter. But a lot of people ain't woke. Okay, they sleep, and that's why it's not being too woke. This is being woke. You have to pay attention to the music you listen to, the images you let into your mind. A lot of stuff that we deal with is psychological, and these people don't spend billions of dollars in advertising and branding and marketing because they can't influence you in some way. They do this because they actually can influence you. So music has an influence, mass media has its influence on people. So that's not being too woke, that's being woke. And then we have like movies, right? People talk about movies, right? Can movies influence you? But what about subliminal messages in movies, right? Subliminal messages in mass media and all that stuff. But they say they insert stuff like people say when you see the checkered floor or when you see the black and white floor or black and white background, that's a symbol for Masonic. Masonic. They got the eye, the pyramid, all these crazy talks about this stuff. For me, that's too woke. That's too woke. That's too woke for me. That's just too much stuff for me. I'm not interested in all of that. I can't believe none of that stuff. It's just too much. I don't know anybody that's in Masonry, in Masonry and all these other special groups, so I can't really speak on it. Everything that I've learned about this is from a YouTube video or documentaries that I've watched, or maybe a book that I picked up here and there. Some of this stuff is hard to actually prove or not prove. But like I said, I do believe there are special societies. We do know there are special secret societies that we know about. How much influence they have, how much they use movies and all this stuff to talk to one another, I don't know. That's a little bit too much. All right, let me see. What's up, Alonzo? What's good, bro? Movies and productive programming. Yeah, I mean, it's a part of the influence. You're right. That's being woke. That's a part of being influenced, mass media. But the subliminal messages, do they send subliminal message in movies and stuff like that to one another, like the NWO type stuff? That's what I'm talking about. There's also subliminal messages in advertising, right? Because like they put certain things in movies to make you go buy food and stuff like that. There's a lot of that subliminal messages actually exist, so that's not too far fetched. But are they using movies to send subliminal message to one another? That's too woke for me. And was COVID-19 planned? Oh, that's a good one. Was COVID-19 planned? Is that being woke or too woke? If you believe that they planned a pandemic and did all that other stuff, that's being woke. Being woke, brother. Good job by you, Alonzo. That's good. That's good. I appreciate that one. That's being woke. Yes, indeed. That's being woke. They did plan the pandemic. Again, if Ford knows what car is coming out in 2030, best believe the people who are in power and controlling things are way ahead of themselves with that also. So, yeah, I believe that. I believe that. But what else? What other stuff do we have here? How about, let's go to like the flat earths and NASA stuff, right? Everybody talks about NASA, right? Yeah, predictive, productive. Oh, it says predictive. Oh, that's right. It says I need glasses. Shit. But let's talk about like NASA, right? Moon landings and flat Earth and aliens and blah 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 blah. Is this woke or being too woke? Now, some people believe NASA lies, right? I always had this joke that NASA stands for National Artificial Special Effects Association because people believe that NASA lies, that all the images of the globe being round, all the images of the universe and all those stuff that we see on TVs and documentary shows are basically CG. They're not actual. They're computer generated. It's not. There's no picture of the Earth. The Earth is flat. We never landed on the moon. All this stuff. For me, I'm gonna have to go with that's too woke. Okay, that's too woke. The people who are usually believing this have no mathematical aptitude of any kind. They don't know nothing about science. They'll tell you literally in the video, you want to know how the Earth is flat, and then they'll turn their camera and tell you, look over there. And by looking, that's how you're gonna know the Earth is flat. But there's scientists like Neil. What's his name? Neil. I can't even say his name right now. But he talks about how all this is calculated. This is mathematical. The Nation of Islam has always told us about the mathematics of the world and the actual size of the Earth, the mileage and everything. It's nothing new. It's ancient history. The Earth has always been around. Everybody knows this. The moon, did we land on the moon or not? I don't know, but I still think it's too woke to sit here and argue about it. Aliens, that's another thing. Where's my boy Hector at? Hector loves to talk about aliens. Are there aliens, and have aliens, first of all, have aliens come and visit us before? Too woke. With the digital world and all the cameras and everything we capture on camera, how the hell we still haven't captured any more mermaids, any damn aliens, any werewolves, any Bigfoots? We should have had footage of these things by now. We don't have footages by them. They don't exist. As far as landing on Earth. Now, is there life outside of this planet in this universe? The calculations and the numbers say yes. There's obviously other life forms in the universe. We are not the only life in the universe. But are we capable of actually reaching one another? I don't think so. So that's being too woke. Aliens, did aliens come and civilize humans and teach us how to build pyramids? No. Humans built pyramids. We are brilliant. We built the pyramids. We built great civilizations. We mastered the Earth and harnessed the powers around us. We didn't need aliens to teach us shit. What else is there? There's the the alien world. Yeah, man. Alien though. We can't be the only beings in the big ass universe. Yes, we can't be the. You're right, Alonzo. We cannot be the only living beings in the universe. I agree with you, but can we actually contact one another? Can we reach one another? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another topic. That is a total another topic. It's not, like I said, man, that's too woke, man. You fucking too woke. I ain't got time for that shit, man. I gotta pay my bills. Nigga, rent due. Got no time to worry about fucking aliens. Listen, when an alien land his fucking spacecraft in my backyard, or front yard, or a fucking Young Circle at the Guitar Center down the street, I don't want to hear that shit, man. There ain't no fucking aliens coming to America. Ain't no aliens, man. The pyramids were built by black people, okay? Around the globe. All the pyramids were built by black people around the globe. That's it. I don't want to hear nothing else. Leave me alone about that. What else we have? We have, this is a good one. What about like giants, right? You know, this conspiracy theory about giants, that there was a race of giant human beings at one point on Earth. That's too woke. That's too woke. I don't believe there was a race of giants on Earth. Maybe because, the original humans were short statured. The pygmies in Africa are the oldest living humans ever. So we did have a short stature at one point, but somehow we grew tall, like the northeastern Africa, the Horn of Africa, like people from like Somalia and like Kenya and Nubia. These people were tall, so I believe that maybe that's where we get the idea of giant human beings compared to short human beings. And we had obviously the hominid species in Asia, and that was still alive around the time of our us being on Earth or whatever. But again, that's still being too woke. I don't believe there were giants, those giant footprints and stuff like that. Them hiding evidence, archaeological, people are hiding archaeological evidence and stuff like that. That's being too woke. They may not publish certain things, but it's hard to hide scientific study. That's why I would tell you guys, read books, man. You got to read books. You got to read articles about science and journals and different things like that, because their peers read it and they go at one another. That's what makes science and archaeology and all that stuff so great, man. You guys got to really take your time to read and look up stuff. But what about another thing? Let's talk about the gay agenda, right? People say there's a gay agenda. Is that real? They are trying to make more people homosexual to depopulate the earth because they want less people on earth. So the more gays you have, the more people are not going to have children, right? Is there an agenda to promote homosexuality, to make it more of a norm than it's ever been in society? Some people say that that's being too woke. It's too much conspiracy theory, too much that. Some people say it's real. Some people say it's not. I say that's being woke. I've been saying it for a long time on my Facebook. People get mad at me. I have family members that I consider family members that that are homosexual. I have homosexual friends. I've talked to people about homosexuality before, and for me, like I tell people, there is an agenda. There is there is government documents and military documents in the Pentagon stating that they would use homosexuality. There's ways of weaponizing sexuality in general. So it's not far-fetched. The government tries a lot of crazy shit, man. But the idea of allowing homosexuality to be more accepted and more norm in our society, it is an agenda that is being pushed more today than ever, and it's being pushed outside of the popular mass public opinion. All right, so I agree with that. I think that's being woke, especially when it comes to children. I believe children should be protected at all times. Sexuality of any kind is not necessary to be brought up to any children that are not mature enough physically and mentally to understand sexuality. So we'll leave it there. What about racism? Now, obviously, that's another topic on my Facebook that we talk about all the time. I'm an advocate for being pro-Black. I'm an advocate for being Pan-African. I'm an advocate for destroying white supremacy. Now, I always told you guys, racism is only one form of racism. That's white supremacy. There's no other form of racism. Racism only exists because white people have created racism. No other group of people ever decided to separate people and divide people by how they look as far as their physical features, by the way they were born. So racism is an actual system that allows white people to have power and they're able to influence their power on other people who are non-white. So racism, white supremacy is being woke, which is the original term and the original meaning for being woke, which is understanding racial prejudices, racial injustice, and being woke to the system of racism, white supremacy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I can, break down any more topics about what's being woke or too woke, let me know. Let's talk about it. We can have a woke, being too woke, episode part 2. We could talk about more topics. I love it. It was a great show. Thank you guys again for joining me. This is Speaking with Ajani Bakari Talk Show. I'm your host, Ajani Bakari. We're going to end the show tonight with that. Everybody stay woke, stay blessed, stay beautiful. Y'all have a beautiful night. Thank you again.